Hello my friends, Nico here from Frames. I'm the founder of a platform that allows you to create audio reactive AI visuals for your music. It's a tool like none of its kind. We call it a visual synthesizer. It gives you all the controls you could possibly imagine to create stunning AI visuals. Today I would like to demo and explain 5 different techniques to create audio reactive visuals on our platform. I will try to explain what's going on in all of these 5 techniques. So afterwards, you will have some inspiration and also some understanding for how the platform works, and you can create your audio reactive AI visuals yourself. The last video we will show is actually this one. And we will demo the settings of it, so make sure to not skip away beforehand. So this is our first demo. It's almost a bit of a boring demo, but I want to show you the one extreme of what we can generate. In this project we have 2 prompts. The first one is an intricate charcoal sketch of a tree, and the second one is a bit different. It's an acrylic painting of an oak tree, and then some stuff that the Pimp My Prompt feature added. But what's interesting about this project is actually the settings. And notably, these are the strength and the smooth. We have a strength of 0.4, which is honestly not very high strength. Strength is the magnitude for how much new stuff the AI will add from frame to frame. So a low strength means it's very consistent. A high strength makes it a bit more flickering, but also more moving in general. And interestingly, we have a smooth of 40. Smooth means for each AI output, we will add some interpolation frames until the next AI output comes. And if it's 40, this means we will add 40 interpolation frames between 2 AI outputs. And these just interpolate, from one AI output to the other. If this number is very high, it means the whole animation will be very, very smooth, and you will actually, in this case, barely see any changes. Additionally, on Frames, if you upload a song, we automatically extract the stems of the song. So we extract the kick drum, the snare, the vocals, the bass, etc. And now you can use the signal of these stems to modulate certain parameters that you see up here. Any of these parameters can be modulated. In this case, we use the signal of the kick drum to change the zoom value. The zoom is here, right? It's 0 normally. But in this case, we modulate the zoom with the kick drum by an amplitude of 1. 1 is actually very gentle, you will see it. How to place these numbers exactly requires a bit of experimentation, but after a while you will get a good feeling for it. And then we can play the project. Now you can see there's really, as I said, barely any changes. What you can see nicely is the zooming in on the kick drum, right? There's like a bump on the kick drum. That's cool. And apart from that, there's very little changes, but there are some changes over time. For instance, here slowly the image becomes a bit more colorful. Yeah, so in the end the image is a bit more colorful, and this is because we added this acrylic painting and it's not charcoal drawing anymore. Now you could extend this very far. Rendering with high smooth makes the rendering itself very fast because interpolation frames are not so difficult to calculate for us as the AI output. So you can extend this up to 10 minutes and just like slowly morph things into each other. You could also add another modulation, maybe on the snare drum you could rotate it slightly or something like that. Here you are really bound only by your creativity. Let's go to the next one. Now this is a bit more what Frames is about. We have a very colorful image. The prompt is colorful artistic depiction of bacteria, geometric 3D, not very sophisticated prompt. Also, we have the Juggernaut XL model. On Frames you have access to 9 different AI models. All of them are a little bit different. In addition, you can also train your custom AI models. This we will demo in the next section. But in this one, we have the model Juggernaut XL, which is arguably our most sophisticated, most beautiful model. It's also slower than the other ones, but it really creates these stunning visuals. They are very detailed, beautiful, it's very good with color, can create also beautiful people, but you can create anything with it. Now, in this case, again, there's not so much going on here on the timeline. We have again 2 prompts. First, the bacteria. The second prompt is actually underwater creatures, cereal jellyfish, still colorful neon color palette and stuff. And what we add here is a bit of camera movement. So you will see that we are panning up slightly, which means the camera moves upwards. And simultaneously, we're rotating the camera downwards a little bit. What this will do is we move upwards and then rotate downwards, which kind of makes us rotate around an object. We have several motion presets here, for instance, infinite rotation, which does exactly the same, but kind of in the horizontal axis. And in this project, I wanted to try it in the vertical axis, but only very gently. In addition, we have a modulation. We use the signal of the snare drum to modulate the strength. So when the snare drum hits, we're getting a bit more AI output. This usually creates a cool effect. Let's play it. I just love these, whenever the snare hits, that you can see these changes. You can see here that suddenly the jellyfish are appearing. I really like that stuff. It doesn't happen on every snare bump in this case, because the smooth is 13. And actually, whenever there's interpolation frames where the signal hits, we won't modulate the strength, because we can only modulate the strength of an AI output. And when we have 13, again, we have 13 interpolation frames between 2 AI outputs. And if there's only interpolation frames on one of these bumps, then we will not see any changes here. But you can see here we hit it very nicely, and yeah, we just rotate around the object slowly. And you can see the jellyfish appearing here. Some of the most beautiful visuals on neural frames happen like that. It's really just like spherical things morphing into each other, rotating the camera. You can imagine now adding new prompts here, where we then maybe move upwards or zoom in on a certain object and then change the object slightly, maybe to a colorful fish or something like that, right? So this is just a starting point, demoing a little bit of camera motion. Let's go to the next one. On NeuroFrames, you have the chance to train your own custom AI model on images you upload. I initially bid this feature because I thought it would be cool to train an AI model on images of yourself and then make videos of yourself. But our power users actually used it for something completely different and something that I didn't expect. And this is also a very powerful technique. Some of the most beautiful videos on NeuroFrames were done with the technique that I show you now. So I went to Midjourney, and Midjourney has this feature of style reference, so you can prompt and then type --sref and then the number. And I found this number on Twitter. I just looked on Twitter for sref, and then you find all these people that post just these codes, and I looked for a style that I liked. And then I just prompted Midjourney for, let's say, clouds with this sref, or skylines from the bottom, perspective, fsref, a giant clock on a tower. Really no sophisticated prompting on my end, because the style reference does most of the heavy lifting here. Then I downloaded these images here and actually trained my own custom AI model here, uploaded the images, had it train. It took 5 to 10 minutes or something, and then I have this model here. And now we have our own custom AI model that knows the images that I just fed in and is trained on these images. What we then do is we need to prompt it with SKS style in this case, because I trained it as a style. You also can train this on a person, then you would write SKS person. The reason we need to put SKS here is the model still knows all the words from real life, right? You could prompt it still for a smartphone or whatever, and it would depict a smartphone. But how do we tell the model that it now should depict the style we want? We say basically SKS style. You can imagine this like a name we give to the style we trained it, okay? And in this case, it's SKS style. And if you don't prompt SKS style, it might still actually look a little bit like this. But this way, the model knows what we're talking about. And then I added some prompts here. SKS style, a trained and some clouds. Kafkaesque, SKS style, a tower with a giant watch. SKS style, giant beetle in a bed. I'm reading some Kafka literature at the moment, and this would be cool. And then something else also. And let's play it once. Isn't that beautiful? It's always in this particular style that we trained it on, and we have beautiful images coming out of it with a bit of camera motion. I found also interesting that like a giant beetle was a bit different interpreted than I thought it would be. I kind of thought of the beetle of the, what's the name in English of the guy that turned into a beetle. Anyways, about the settings that we applied here. So we have a smooth of 4, which I think is a very general good setting. Strength of 0.45 is also a good setting. And in addition, we have the edge echo and the tile echo on neural frames. The edge echo will keep the shapes of the object stable. If you take it away, it would become much more unstable, the whole appearance over time. If we have edge echo, it will try to keep the shape that we have here. We also have tile echo, which is a bit of a trippy effect that like enhances certain areas a little bit. But I set this to 0 here. But you can see that actually we have this other from the audio source. The other is this one. Basically the keys. And on other, we just modulate the tile echo a little bit. I don't know if we can actually see an effect of it, but many people do this. They take some random source from the audio and just modulate one parameter a little bit. 0.2 is also not much, yeah, it goes to 1. But still, we will see some response to the audio that comes in. But now the most important part in this video from the settings is actually what I did here. I wanted more of a rapid transition between these images. We can do this here by uploading an image and then having a hard cut. That also works. But here I show you a different technique to accomplish this. If we would just put one prompt and then a second one, it would try to put the tower with a giant watch into the train, because we have the edge echo enabled, meaning it will try to keep the shape of the train and then somehow force the tower in there. This is not really what we want. What we do want is we want the edge echo to disappear just for a brief moment, and in that moment we change the prompt. So this we have here. On the snare we modulate the edge echo by -1. Okay, so on the snare the edge echo will go down to 0 or almost 0, and simultaneously I have another modulation also on the snare that we modulate the strength. At the same time where we go down with the edge echo, so away with the shape stability, we increase the power of the AI to invent something new. And this leads to these somewhat fluent animations, but then suddenly we get this kick on the snare drum where the image changes. Here again. It's just one way to do this. There's several ways to do this, but I like this one. We will actually introduce also image morphing between an image you upload here. But in this way, you don't really need to put an image that comes. You're just, okay, whatever comes, just kind of hard cut to it. Okay, this was it. This was custom models and Kafkaesque style with clouds. And let's go to the next one. Now for the next example, I will dive into our algorithm just a little bit. You can skip this part if you're not interested in it. It will not take very long. And if it's too hard to follow, then don't worry about it. You can just play with the parameters without understanding it. But for those who are interested in it, I will add this here. So our algorithm works in the following way. We have Stable Diffusion, which generates the images or whatever AI model we choose, right? They're all based on Stable Diffusion in a sense. And actually what it does is an image comes in, we add some noise on top of it, and then from the noise, Stable Diffusion will generate a new image. And actually the strength parameter that I was talking about is the strength of the noise, okay? So how much noise we are adding, And the more noise you can imagine, the different the image that comes out will look like. Now we have this slider which is called the flicker. And what flicker does is it controls how much the noise pattern that I showed you here will change over time. And flicker is in percentage, so 0% means the noise pattern will stay constant. It will be the same noise pattern all along. In the previous examples I showed you, flicker was always 100. So each frame had a completely new noise pattern, so they were kind of unrelated to each other. But now I show you a different technique, and this is we reduce flicker. Actually, the whole image generation now becomes a little bit wild. We increase strength to 1, because imagine the noise you put in is actually not changing over time, so we can have strength 1 and the images that we put out are always the same, because the noise pattern is always the same. Even with a strength of 1, where if flicker was 100, strength of 1 would mean it's completely a new image each frame. Okay, and also we have smooth 1, because I think in this mode smooth 1 looks the best, but it's also very slow, because as I said earlier, smoothing frames are kind of accelerating things a little bit. What we're doing now is we have a first prompt, a fly, intricate, detailed, vibrant colors, blah, 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 beautiful fly. A second prompt, close-up of a hummingbird, vibrant colors. And then this third prompt, close-up of a flower, vibrant colors. And in addition, we modulate the flicker. Again, the flicker is 0 normally. We modulate the flicker on the kick drum to give a bit of bump. The noise pattern will change on each kick drum just a bit by 30%. And then we come out with a video like this one. What's beautiful about this mode, you can see, is that the animation is much more stable. It's not so flickering anymore. That's why we call it the flicker slider, because flicker is 0 now. But whenever the kick drum hits, actually we do see change happening. Yeah. And in addition, we have, and this goes again a bit in the theory rabbit hole, we have these long transitions here, which will actually bring you from one prompt to the next one slowly. Okay, so we have a prompt here, and then we have a prompt there, and we just morph from one prompt to the next one slowly. This means that the input to the AI also changes a little bit from frame to frame. That's why even without this modulation, we would see some changes over time here. Now be careful with this mode, because for low flicker you need a high strength, and with a high strength the camera motion doesn't really work anymore. You can try to get it to work by increasing the edge echo, but usually I would recommend against it. You will create some weird effects, and you might end up disappointed. So in this mode, just keep these settings, maybe increase smooth if you want a little bit. But other than that, I would recommend no camera settings, no camera motion here, and just fluid animation between prompts, or modulate the flicker on one of the stems. As you are getting more acquainted using our platform, your projects will become more and more complex. And this is actually a project that our community and social media manager Scott Haynes made. Follow him on X on YouTube. He makes amazing AI music videos. And you can see there's a lot of stuff going on here. And I just want to show you how a project later on can look like, and also how sophisticated the interplay of all the different elements of our visual synthesizer can become. In particular, I love this. I mean, there's many great parts here, but in particular, I like this part here. It starts off with a hard cut of an image of an underground rave. And we have all these modulations here. Let's play it maybe once. And I think what's fascinating here is that it's actually always the same prompt. He doesn't change the prompt at all. And everything that happens is because of all the modulations that he applied here. Let's go through the modulations a little bit so that you can get some inspiration. So he has one modulation that goes through the whole project where the kick modulates the strength, actually very high. So it modulates it basically between the original value and 1. Then he has also some oscillator here, not an audio reactive modulation, but an oscillatory modulation on the horizontal rotation. It's very gently moving left and rightwards. And then something else that I found interesting is the smooth modulation here. So I explained earlier that smooth is the number of interpolation frames that we have. And usually he has a smooth value of 8. And you can see it is a somewhat smooth animation first. But then on the bass, he gives a negative modulation on the smooth. What this will do is whenever there's a bass, the smooth will go down. And in this case, actually the smooth is at 8 most of the time, but then when the bass comes, the smooth goes to 1. You can see this here in this hover. And you can see this clearly. And then what I also absolutely love is then later on he modulates the horizontal rotation on the snare. It's still the same prompt, but so dynamic. Right, so he made this 10-minute music video here in Neuroframes with all these modulation. It takes a lot of love, but in the end you really have an absolute stunning, very creative music video, which in the best case is also fun to make. I hope that gave you some understanding of how the platform works and also some inspiration for what to do on it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of it, what we should present next maybe also. Until then, of course, I'd be glad if you tried out Neuroframes. We have some free credits available. And other than that, I have nothing to say but happy rendering.